So welcome to another video that nobody asked for. This is episode 2 of my series that nobody asked for called The Accidental American. If you haven't seen my first video on food culture, I highly recommend it. If nothing else, there's amusement in my editing skills. I do think there's some interesting information. If I don't toot my own horn, who will, you know? Toot toot, beep beep. I'm an American citizen. Both my parents are American. I was born and raised in Germany. I lived my entire life there up until a few years ago, where I moved to the United States, and as an American citizen living in the United States for the first time, I am in culture shock of my own culture, if you will. As it stands now, I am legally American, culturally German, and I'm pretty sure European at heart. I am not under the impression that Germany is some magical place where nothing bad ever happens and it's just, you know, rainbows, sunshine, unicorns, and no bureaucracy. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Germany is not the greatest place in the world. I am not that delusional. Given the question of whether I think America or Germany has better quality of life, I would have to go with Germany. But yeah. So here are some things that I found really difficult to adapt to, or just strange, or things that I am not used to living in the United States and I do pretty much don't care for. Number one, being on top of the list, is public transportation. I went 35 years of my life without ever having to drive an automobile. I would have been totally comfortable, satisfied with my life, going the rest of my life never having to drive an automobile. When I arrived to the United States, I had to get my license. The shock on people's faces and just like could not grasp the idea that I was a 35-year-old woman without a driver's license is just like, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that there is not a proper public transportation system. For me, it's a pain in the ass to have to drive everywhere and do everything by car. And I like the idea of hopping on and off buses, trains, ferries, whatever. Like, being able to get around without a car provides everybody access. And I just think it's unfortunate that in order to access like nature and things like that, you need to have a car. I mean, it's lovely that you have all these great national parks all over the United States, but who has the time, the resources, and the energy to drive all the way to them? That's what follows in my not being able to get used to, is that the lack of like nature or public spaces that a community or the public can enjoy. And it's like you have to pack the car up and drive to these national park areas. The lack of access to public transportation and the lack of access to nature and like community park areas is super frustrating and like sad. It's like something that was super difficult for me to get used to, like the recycling, the lack of recycling here, that it being like a universal standard all across for your plastic, your glass, your paper, the rest, you know, like the whatever's left over. First to Virginia, there was like our first apartment, it was just like everything just went in one bin, and it just broke my heart. Don't like the lack of care for the environment in the United States bothers me as well. It's like it goes hand in hand with the recycling. The United States is one of the it's super dirty. It's like really gross. And people litter like they don't have any issue. I see it all the time. I've seen it all over the place. And it doesn't matter if you're in like hippie country in Washington State, in California or whatever, or like a big city in LA or New York. It's just like universally people are just like don't give a fuck, and they just throw their trash everywhere, and it's gross and it's disgusting and I hate it. If you were walking the street in Germany and you like drop trash and like somebody will say something to you, like they are like, people don't play. And like even on public transportation, if you put your feet on a chair, like on one of the seats, like somebody's gonna say something to you. And I think that's something else I miss, that like sense of community where people are watching out for each other, people are correcting one another. And I know that sounds fucked up. People keeping each other in check, and like you should know how to act in public. I never thought that I would miss that, but I do, because it keeps people respectful of one another. There is no decorum and respect for one another and like the sense of community in any place that I've been in the United States, and it's very like selfish individualism, but that's a topic for another time. But it really upsets me. The United States doesn't care more about the environment. I always ask myself, like, why do people want to live like this? The highways are filthy, the neighborhoods are filthy, the streets are filthy. It doesn't matter where you go, there's trash everywhere. I believe it's a lack of quality of life to be surrounded by garbage, and then like when the wind picks up, like fighting off flying pieces of God knows what. I don't understand why people want to live like that. I refuse to get used to. I don't think that I should accept living in filth. Nah, I don't think so. The lack of grocery stores is something that I find very unsettling. The smallest of German towns, like they get like 2 decent grocery stores. They have everything you want, but it's not gonna have everything that you need. Like if you're doing some wild recipe that, I don't know, calls for chili peppers, don't expect a small German grocery store to have something of the sort. All the places I lived in Germany, a handful of different places, I could always walk to a grocery store from where I lived. I think it's a disservice to a community not to have a decent grocery store within walking distance or like a quick car ride. You shouldn't have to leave your whole community to get groceries. I think that's absolutely absurd. Americans are like, no problem. They love to drive. They love to drive. And I like, this is another thing about the culture that I don't care for. Most European places are pedestrian friendly or focused, or like in the Netherlands, bikes are heavily the focus instead of automobiles. And I'm just like, I'm over this like car culture. I'm over it. Lack of caring about the environment. Americans just don't give a shit. Like they just don't care. They will drive their big ass gas guzzling cars just cause. Like I understand if you have a pickup truck because it serves some purpose in your life. Like maybe you're a hunter, like maybe you construction, whatever. It's actually useful. But a lot of these people just drive these big ass cars, these big trucks with little to no purpose. If you don't have a driver's license, you don't own a car. It's a status thing almost. It's gross. And I don't understand how it is that Americans get their driver's license at obscene ages and still don't know how to drive like 20 years later. There's something that I really, really don't like about American culture is going outside in your pajamas. Whole families will go to the grocery store or whatever in their pajamas, in loungewear, things that they would like hang out in their house in, and like they just roll out of bed and head to the store. And I personally cannot get down with this, and I don't care for the athleisure wear culture either. I just don't understand why people want to run around looking like that. Sometimes it's hard to decipher between an unhoused person and just somebody who's like wearing athleisure wear. Can't tell the difference. It's in the name of comfort, and I've worn workout leggings before, and let me tell you, it is a UTI just waiting to happen. And I just don't understand why you want to walk around with your hoo-ha painted out. Like, I can see it, the outline of it, and it's just like, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. This athleisure wear look is out of control. Nobody's asking you to wear like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, some name brand stuff. You come clean, put together. Like that's all that anybody's really asking. And you may think that that's what you look like when you're like, you got your matching sweatsuit on, but I'm here to tell you that shows a lack of pride and a lack of like respect to anybody you see. I don't understand why you don't take more pride in yourself and what you present into the world. It's not for me, but press on if that's your thing. Thing that I will never get used to in this country is how the chocolate tastes, and I refuse to eat it. And chocolate has been my number one go-to sweet goodness, and I don't know what that is, but that is not chocolate, and it is offensive, and I don't appreciate it. And your breakfast, American breakfast, is when I lived in Germany, it was like a real treat. Oh, you know, we're gonna do a big American breakfast, we're gonna do like French toast and eggs and sausage and like all this stuff and da-da-da. And it was like lovely, once in a while thing. In this country, it is just like, what are we doing? Breakfast is just over the top most of the time. And I just miss cold cuts, some yummy bread, some gorgeous bread, some jams, maybe a hard-boiled egg, just like simple, light, that isn't gonna knock you out and make you, nap for the next 5 hours. It's just like all the food, breakfast food in America is just like super heavy. Your light breakfast is like avocado toast or whatever. That can't be the only option. Please tell me that's not the only option. Something that I'll never get used to, and when I first got here thought was like the bee's knees, was the absolute convenience. This is the land of convenience. Instead of a bakery every few blocks, it's a 7-Eleven. Everything has a pickup convenience. So you can call Target and tell them all the things that you need, or you can order it online, drive up into the parking lot, someone can scoot out to the parking lot, drop it into your car window, and you can scoot back home. The laziness culture in America is the abuse of the convenience. It's wonderful that there's a convenient way for busy people to get on with their lives. I think that's fabulous. I think it's fabulous that you can order your groceries to your door. Like, bravo. I think it's amazing. You can get pretty much anything, especially in New York, delivered to your door. And when I say anything, I mean anything. The land of convenience has made it so convenient that people have just become so lazy. Same as social media and the internet. It's a great thing. Convenience is a great thing, but it's just gets abused to the point of laziness. I think it's absolutely absurd that everything has drive-through. Not just fast food, but dry cleaning places, banks, coffee places. Everything is a drive-through. That it is too much for a person to get their fat ass out of their car and walk a few steps and be amongst others and know how to act in public because they're used to it. But hiding away in your car constantly and like picking up your dry cleaning and picking up your prescriptions through a window and then driving your ass through a drive-through before you go home to get dinner, it's absurd to me. It's absurd to me. And I miss the kind of activity that European towns and cities allow you to have by being able to walk out your door and do things and forcing you to interact and get out there. I can't blame Americans so much because of the culture they've created in this hustle culture. There's no time to enjoy life, and I feel that ever present. Might have changed a little bit with COVID and everything, but every minute needs to be used as being productive. That is how you measure your worth. Celebrity culture is another thing that shocks me. This obsession and this loyalty to celebrities and people that are famous or people that are on TV or people that have podcasts and things like that. And they don't necessarily have to be like experts or very intelligent for American society to like latch on to that and go with it. And I think a perfect example of that is Joe Rogan. And like, I personally do find Joe Rogan interesting, the conversations that they might have, and you have to take it with a grain of salt and know that like these people possibly don't know what they're talking about. Do your own research, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. And it just seems that if a celebrity says it, it must be true. They hold celebrities, famous people, on this pedestal. It's really uncomfortable in some situations. What are we doing? Like, why are we letting this man who knows nothing about politics or running a country have anything to do with how we run our country? But that's another topic for another time. Celebrity culture and the worship and loyalty to people they've never met, it makes me very uncomfortable. That kind of fanaticism was something that like I might have indulged in when I was like in my teens and early 20s. It's strange. It's really weird. They have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of stuff. And they're always buying more stuff. And they have so much stuff that they have storage units that they store this extra stuff at because they have so much stuff that they can't fit that stuff in the place that they live. And this blows my mind. This is one of the things that just, I cannot wrap my mind, I can't wrap my mind around it. I can't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I think it's silly. I think it's stupid. Like, I think it's just plain ridiculous. And it just shows the materialism in this country is out of control, out of control, out of control. So I hadn't heard about things like this, but with the military community, like military families will come to Germany and they will leave their things in storage units in America because they only plan to stay a couple of years, maybe a year. It makes no sense to like take all this stuff with them. So they may rent stuff from like the military, or like they live in military housing. At least when I lived in military housing as a young kid, you could get stuff to furnish your home, your apartment, because I didn't know growing up that all of the things that we owned in our house, except a few items like the thing behind me, were things that we actually owned. I thought we owned everything. Then come to find out we only owned like this cabinet and the couches, and then everything else was owned by the US military. So a lot of families will come over and they will rent stuff, or they will buy, like, I knew that there were like these storage units and like that made sense and like whatever, I didn't think too deep about it. Then I come to America and I find out that people are like paying monthly, yearly on these storage units of just stuff. And I'm like, oh, so like you own like outdoor equipment, like kayaks, big items that just like won't fit in your home. It's like not that at all. It's just like shit that they've just bought. They forget about even that is just in there in these storage units. And like some people keep their Christmas stuff in there or whatever. It's like, but really at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of garbage that they've forgotten about that's just stored in this little place. And instead of like giving it away or like selling it, I don't know, they feel the need to store it and pay money, more money than they already paid for the item, to just keep it and forget about it and have it rendered useless. And it just like, I don't get it. I do not get it. And I think it's just like a sick American culture thing, because I don't think and if you're from a different country and you also have like storage units that you have because you have so much shit that you have to like keep it in an extra place, like please share that, because I would love to know. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the internet for that, but what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? America really needs to check themselves in the materialism category, because I've seen some wild shit since I've been here. I've seen people turn in perfectly good operating cars because they need something more stylish, more whatever, better looking. It blows my mind, the amount of money that is wasted on presenting oneself as a certain somebody or something or whatever. And it's like, if that shit gets you from A to B, like what is the problem here? Is it leaking gas? Is it not starting? Is the battery no good? You know, like why are we doing all this? You know, and it's like the wastefulness ties back with that, like not caring about the environment. And then the materialism is just that, gotta have it, want it, I'm gonna buy it for, you know, a quick temporary high and a way to show off to my friends so I can also get high off their jealousy or whatever. And there are a lot of great things about the United States. I'm not saying all of it is bad. There are a lot of things I do like about the United States. Thing that the super zealous, super loyal patriotism on max is a bit much, and that it would behoove this country to take a moment and say, how could this be better? Because the way that things are now, it's not that great. And I don't think that America's ever been super great.